Man, we thought we were doing everything right until the Warden showed up and we saw them measuring crabs. We had several crabs in our bag and it felt like a win. So we got to wondering, did we do everything correctly? It's amazing how high and mighty you can sometimes feel and be surprisingly humbled the next moment. As we're ending our dive, things were not done with us. Welcome to DiveWise, and today we're going to explore the wonders and beauty of cold water diving. Our first time crabbing with friends, and I'll walk you through the Seattle Mukilteo Boeing Dock dive site. Let's dive on in. So to start things off, let's talk about cold water diving. You might think it sounds insane, and I sometimes question myself. It is a little insane. When we showed up at the dive site, there were people walking around, and the air temperature was below freezing. It was cold as balls. But you know what? We were there to dive, and nobody was gonna stop us. But let me tell you that the cold water, at least around Seattle, is full of nutrients that of course support a lot of life. Surprising amount of life. And once you can negate the cold with environmental suits like dry suits, it becomes a lot easier to dive. I won't say easy, but easier. And of course, cold water dive sites tend to be less crowded, more rugged, and filled with unique life that you can't see elsewhere in the world, like the giant Pacific octopus and wolf eels. But today we're going to explore the Mukilteo Fuel Docks, or sometimes called the Boeing Docks. A very popular site because of all the crabs that hang out there. It is filled with crabs, especially at the beginning of the summer crabbing season. But also because of the pier, the docks that are there, it attracts a significant amount of wildlife. And it's usually a nice easy dive because you can follow the pier down, around, and back. And of course, we were there to do some crabbing while diving. What's better to go ahead and enjoy your dive, pick up some crabs along the way, and then have crab for dinner? Can't beat that. But let me share with you, if you're curious about crabbing, what it entails. So crabbing, here in Seattle at least, is very controlled. They try to make sure that the amount of crabs fished do not diminish below the numbers that they can reproduce. So it is very controlled and they take it very seriously. So you do not want to be crabbing without a license or a permit. So you have to go to a local Fred Meyer's or Dick's or some other place to pick up your permit, and it can be a day permit or a season pass. But you're generally allowed 6 crabs a day, and you have to report them on the website once they're caught. And those crabs have to be a certain width in order to say that they're a fully grown adult and they're okay to be picked up, because we don't want to be harvesting juveniles. So it's a crab, you'll need a bag to put the crabs in and a gauge to make sure the crab is big enough. And also, you can only grab male crabs. So here, I'll show you a footage of a male, and in here, I'll show you a footage of a female. You can only catch males. So generally, you'll go in, go for a flip, check to see male or female. If it's a male, then you'll flip it back, grab your gauge, see if it's the correct length, and then you can check its sides to make sure the shell is not soft. If it's hard, then you're good to go. Stuff that crab in with one motion, because you don't want to slowly put them in your bag because they will grab the sides and it will be a struggle to get them inside the bag from there. So you just open the bag, stuff, close, done. That's one crab. And you can get 6. You can crab red rock, which I'll show an image here, and then Dungeness, which I'll show an image here. In particular, we were going for the Dungeness, so we were just focusing on those and ignoring the red rock. And these rules are set in place to protect the crabs, to make sure that the crabbing is sustainable and we don't overcrab and damage the population of crabs for our future. But as long as we're all doing it fair and square, we can enjoy ourselves some crabs while we dive. So after getting all the strange looks from all the people passing by while we're getting our gear on, we're finally ready to dive. We get to the water and Oh, my wife forgot her weights in her BCD. So no problem. She had to go back to the car. But unfortunately, now we're all getting a little bit cold. We're in cold water, remember? So while that air was the crisp, below freezing air, the water was a steaming 48 Fahrenheit or 7.7 Celsius. That's like tropical. And of course, in this particular case, it would have been good that we did a pre-check before we left the car. And then we do a pre-dive check in the water as well. Once my wife was back, we got our dive underway, with that long surface swim, mind you. We dropped down to about 15-ish feet, or I think 3.5 meters, and the immediate impressions was crabs everywhere, particularly red rock. I can tell red rock are not necessarily favored for their delicacy. And the way that the sun shines through the dock or parts of the pier and looking at the underwater structure kind of gives this eerie, mystical feeling while underwater. The visibility wasn't fantastic, but it was pretty serviceable for here in Seattle. What was important is that we moved slowly, looked through the sand, and look for the small little eyes that are poking out that could be a Dungeness crab. It's important to keep good trim so we didn't silt up the place so we could still look at those fine details. And when we saw a Dungeness that looked like an adequate size, we would pounce. It's important to kind of look like you're hovering. You're not going for a strike. And then get within striking distance. And then as soon as you're ready, go for a strike. Move fast because they can run surprisingly fast. If you take your time approaching them, they'll just run off and they'll get out of it. But the key is, go straight for their back, flip them over, check male, female, flip them back over, gauge them. And so during this time, it's very important that you grab them from behind because those claws are surprisingly flexible. And the big ones, I'm telling you, they're really strong. No one of my party at least got their finger broken, but I do wonder if they could potentially break your finger. Regardless, those pincers are quite strong and you don't want to be pincered. Remember, they're fighting for their lives at this point. So keep those digits away from those pincers by holding the back. And if the shell is hard enough, stuff it in your bag. We thought we'd measure as we go. We thought we were doing everything right. Rookie move. That first dive, let me tell you, was an enjoyable and relaxing 80 minutes that flew by. It was an 80-minute dive. So despite starting cold, but we were definitely cold by the end of 80 minutes, we were able to pull off a very enjoyable dive. I think between the four of us, we caught a collective about 6 or 7 Dungeness. But here's the thing, we ended feeling like heroes with a bag of crabs. And by the way, if you're enjoying this, now is a great time to like and subscribe. I truly appreciate it and it helps my channel grow. I post weekly content to help divers grow their skills, build confidence, and explore the ocean with curiosity and care. And if you're interested in a monthly newsletter, I encourage you to sign up for free in the description below. I try to cover the latest and greatest of the scuba diving industry every month. I'll see you there. It's amazing how high and mighty you can sometimes feel and be surprisingly humbled the next moment. We came out cold, but stoked. We had several crabs in our bag and it felt like a win. But just on shore, we saw a warden going to all the boaters with their crab cages and checking to make sure that they were doing it legitimately. So we got to wondering, did we do everything correctly? We got that gauge out and checked our crabs one by one, and we realized, you know what, rookie move, we didn't measure them appropriately. After consulting our more experienced buddies, we realized, nope, that is not how it's done. You don't count all the little spikes on the edge of their shells, but rather the hard parts from point to point. And so we ended up actually having to throw back a good number of our catch. But more importantly, we enjoyed the dive and we learned. Proud rookies, humbled in seconds. We ultimately walked away with one legit crab. But it was doing the right thing. And the crabs we threw back can continue to grow and live another day. So during our surface interval, our focus was to warm up, which by this time the sun was more out, the day was starting to warm, it was starting to feel a lot nicer. By the time we were ready to dive again, we set out with a clear plan, better communication, better measuring of those crabs. We were going to work with each other, where one diver can be on one end of the crab and the other diver can be on the other end, and thus when you have two divers on both ends, the crab doesn't know where to run and is much easier to catch. So by working as a team, we're going to catch more crabs. This dive is going to be different. It's going to be calmer, we're going to be more deliberate and more team than before. And more importantly, we're gonna check to make sure each crab is legitimate before we put them in the bag, now that we know better. Now, we're not just excited, we're also a bit competent, at least for rookies. If you're looking to dive there, check out this dive site map. And it's not full of detail, but I use Google Maps. And the important thing is to note where you're going to park, the restrooms near there. They are primitive, but they have something. There's no showers available, and you can stage your stuff on the beach. I will say there tends to be a long surface swim. So you'll enter from the beach and you'll go to the third white drain pipe on the pier. You can count little drain pipes on the pier, and it looks closer than it is. Like when you're surface swimming out there, it'll feel like forever. But you just go to that third one and you can drop down on the pier and then start following the pier down. I will advocate that you want to stay away from under the ships. If there's any ships there, don't go under them. That's an overhead environment and presents its own danger. So give those ships some good space, but you can go around them, no problem. And basically the dive profile is going from about 15 feet down to around 66 feet, or rather 20 meters, rounding the dock and coming back. There is some good stuff and a lot of life at the end of the pier that you probably want to spend some time down at 20 meters or 66 feet. But then once you're done or you're getting close to your NDL, it's good to go ahead and round back, follow the pier back up. You could go back on the same side or go back on the other side around, and then you'll end back on the beach that you started. It's a very easy, nice profile. Ultimately, we had ourselves another like 50 to 60 minute dive. I only had 2 cylinders for this. I have no idea how I made them last for this long, but I inched by with the amount of gas I had. But they were both beautiful dives. Lots of large aggregates of fish at the end of the pier, and it's just so much fun crabbing, let me tell you. Even if you threw back all your crabs, it's still just fun trying to go through these motions, learning how to crab, and doing this like treasure hunt for crabs. But as we're ending our dive, things were not done with us. A harbor seal appeared in the distance. We saw him swimming towards us, and then his head disappeared, and then the next moment he popped up right next to us and then dove again. And of course I got this footage I'll show you here. He's basically playing with my friend underwater. At the time, I was basically above the water. I had no clue what I was filming. I had no idea because it's too murky at this shallower area, so I was just shooting blind. Of course, looking at the footage later, it's beautiful seeing the harbor seal check us out under the water, being so curious. And these are the reasons that keep me coming back to dive more, let me tell you.
Quickly, to your right, Roberto. Right? Oh yeah. Bye-bye, seal.
We got even closer to shore. Of course, I checked my crabs again, just being paranoid. I checked them all before we got out of the water. Ideally, as a scuba diver, you should measure them and make sure they're the correct thing before you put in their bags. But of course, I'm just double checking. You shouldn't ideally be doing what I'm doing, where you're checking them on the surface, but I'm kind of a rookie, so I'm gonna give myself a little bit of slack. Next time, I'll do a little bit better. But ultimately, on this time, we measured them all correctly. They're all keepers this time. And I netted 3 more crabs. 4 in total. And the rest of my team got their own crabs, and we all had plenty of crabs. We'll be feasting well soon. So ultimately, our time at the Boeing docks ended with 2 super long dives. We arrived freezing and new to crabbing. We of course had the gear hiccup, some stress, but we also experienced some early success. We then got humbled by the rules and the warden's presence. We then went back in, we learned our lessons, and finished with legal crabs and a seal encounter. We got to learn about crabbing, male only, hard shell, and the width must be of legal limit, adult size, and the legal limit will change based on its subspecies, Dungeness or rock crab. And ultimately, while cold water does take a little bit heavier gear, more particular setup, and a little bit of time to get used to, opening up the ability to explore the underwater world in another environment that is unique and full of wonder and life. It has a big payoff and opened up a lot of adventure. Not to mention, with my dive team, my buddies, we got to learn each other as divers, trusted each other more, worked on teamwork and maneuvers. We turned our mistakes into shared experiences. Ultimately, the crabs were great, but the real win was a day in the water together. Days like this are exactly why I make these videos, to help more divers explore the cold water with curiosity, safety, and with a sense of adventure. And if I piqued your interest into getting to cold water diving, I encourage you to check out this series here, which will try and work you through the basics of getting started. And over here is a video that YouTube thinks you might like next. The more you know, the more you'll love and protect the ocean. Until next time.